Hey, DJ, guess what?
What, Captain NPR?
We have a sponsor.
What kind of sponsor?
Like a advertising sponsor.
Like somebody that helps us out?
Yeah, it's Tennessee Craft Beer Magazine. Have you heard of them?
Well, I mean, yeah, I've heard of them. I mean, they're at all the craft beer bars and breweries in town, and they talk about all the different beers in the state of Tennessee.
Yeah, well, they've actually told us that they want us to talk about all the craft beer breweries in Tennessee and go around and learn more about what's happening in the state and all the exciting things that are going on, and they're willing to sponsor us to do it.
Us?
Yes, I know, it's a shocker, but us, really.
Oh, my word. So, I mean, I should actually put a shirt on.
Yeah, we're actually going to have to go outside of your basement.
Oh, my goodness gracious. So, we'll put a shirt on, but you don't have to have a shirt while reading the magazine online, and where else can you read it?
Find them online at tncraftbeermag.com. There, you'll find copies of their magazine along with a statewide brewery map, events calendar, and you can even subscribe to their print edition online.
It's the magazine where you can find craft beer in the state of Tennessee. It's the name.
Tennessee Craft Beer Magazine.
There you go.
Find them online at tncraftbeermag.com.
Down in the bottom of a bottle, and I ain't gonna change my ways. But I ain't half bad when I do what I ought. It don't happen much these days.
All right, hey guys, this is Chris Hill.
This is DJ Luke.
And this is the Humble Beer Podcast. And with us today is the -3.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you for joining us. We got 2 out of 3 of the -3.
2 out of 3.
Got Jose and
Thomas.
Thank you, Thomas.
So we got 2 losers in Knoxville is what we got.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. It's
That's a funny way to tell
I just did it.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah, this is what used to be 2 losers in Knoxville. Me and Christian started that podcast, and then recently
Just to confirm, I'm not one of the losers. So.
Yeah, we rebranded the podcast and added Thomas. We kind of held like a poll on our podcast and said, hey, if we get this amount of people interacting with us and telling us that they want Thomas, well, we'll keep him. And so we got that number, and then we kind of had to fix some things in the background, kind of have his wife sign off on it. And then once she did, we said, cool, you're on, let's make it happen. So now we're going through the whole like rebranding, making it the -3, new logo, RSS feed, and all that podcast crap that people don't want to listen about. But yeah.
That's cool. And this is, of course, for those who have already listened to the first half, this is the continuation of our talk. We've been talking on the -3's podcast, and now we are switching over to the Humble Beer Podcast. So if you're listening and you're a regular -3 listener, thank you guys. We're happy to have you with us. And if you're just now tuning into Humble Beer and you want to go back and check us out, I recommend hitting pause on this. Believe it or not, I don't want you to listen until you've heard the first half. So I want you to go and listen to the -3. Where can they find that?
So we are on iTunes, Stitcher, Castbeam, anywhere that you can find a podcast, we're pretty much on it. We're also on Spotify. I think only like 2 or 3 episodes are on Spotify right now.
Sure.
But we do have
You got the Spotify going too.
set up. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Well, cool. We'll go and check out the -3 wherever your podcasts are downloaded.
Yeah.
And go from there. But with that said, this is the show, and we'll go ahead and get started. Just really curious, how did you said you and Christian started this? But tell me a little bit more about what you all do, what the podcast is, for those who haven't listened and ignore my plea to ask them to pause.
Okay. So our podcast basically started with a conversation over a couple beers at Christian's house on a guy's night. Christian's wife was out of town doing something, and so he invited a couple guys over, and so we had a couple beers, and he was like, you know what, I've always wanted to start a podcast, in that, like, a couple beers in lingo. And so
we know. We're aware.
Yeah. And so I was like, you know what? I tried to start a podcast about 3 months ago with Kaylee, who's my wife, and it did not go well. Let's just leave it at that. It just was not working out. And so I was like, we should definitely try it. And so I had my buddy Eli, who's studying to be a sound engineer. So he booked us a studio, and we started recording. And the first 2 episodes were so bad, like so bad. They never got released. And then in January, we started releasing episodes of 2018 for people that are listening to this in the future. We started in January of 2018 releasing episodes, and now we're here with the whole rebranding and everything, adding on Thomas. And so that's our podcast. Pretty much we just are a couple of guys sitting down and talking crap for an hour or so.
Yeah, we tend to stay within the realms of religion. Well, I guess just everything, religion, politics, and music, but heavily music-based podcasts, I would say, being that we're all musicians. We like to critique and review a lot of bands' new material and just discuss our favorite albums, etc.
Yeah, tie it into like life in general, or like, whatever Facebook meme is coming out, and talk about that for an hour, or,
You guys talk about our beer, right? Come on.
We usually drink a beer while
Drink a beer.
Our knowledge. You guys don't talk about beer. Get out of here.
Yeah, what are we doing having them on the podcast?
Golly. Did you book these guys?
No, we do. Yeah, we do. No. We do have somewhat of a good taste in beer, I would say. I've never been, like we discussed earlier, I guess a little bit. Me and Christian, I guess Jose, we've had a kind of reel in a little, but neither one of us started with your generic beers. When I tasted my grandfather's Bud Light as a kid and said, why would you ever want to drink this? It tastes,
But Bud Light is so good.
No.
Like, come on, man.
I mean, if you like drinking rice, maybe.
Yeah.
But no.
No, it wasn't a great beer. It is a classic, I guess. My first beer was a Yingling.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good one.
Which is a good...
Great cheap beer that's not commercial. Well...
I mean, it's commercial, but
it's not commercial, but it's not like
privately
big beer.
owned.
Yeah.
And as a being a lager, I kind of liked I realized then that I was going to be someone that drank beer for flavor and not to get drunk. Just being that I was raised in a religious household too, so didn't really start drinking until I was 21. That my parents knew of. Outside of so maybe a couple parties with a little liquor that I thought I was being a rebel, but. Yeah, I mean, I'd say we have an interest in beer, just not the knowledge to speak on it outside of what our favorite beers are, or what we've been drinking for the day, or whatnot.
Yeah, well, that kind of ties into the starting of the podcast. It did start kind of like a couple buddies hanging around, grabbing a couple beers, and just talking. The conversations that we had while we were hanging out, maybe drinking a beer, that's what we wanted to capture and make, I guess people listen to our BS, but like listen to that conversation. Like that's what we wanted to capture, like just genuine moments, because it's almost like in. So as he said, we're pretty religion based. We all go to church together. So it's like when you're at church, you almost have to like be a specific person, especially us who all play worship. Like we have to almost kind of play this role. But when we can get together and have a beer and just genuinely talk, that conversation is something that's very different to what you'll see.
It's a little more raw, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, it's like raw, just authentic conversation. And so that's kind of where it started. Like, let's just record this. Like, let's press the record button and forget that we have a mic in front of our faces and just talk. Like, if I have to say something, then I'm then like, oh, God, like, maybe I have to delete that because I don't know if I even agree with my own thought. Like, that's fine, but at least I spoke it and I talked about it, and then we can think about that and open that conversation. And so that's kind of what Two Losers in Knoxville, now the -3, kind of became and started.
But I would say, though now it's started to reel itself into where we're a little more organized.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's besides being buddies with these guys and being on multiple episodes. I think that was one of the reasons they also wanted me coming on, because I'm pretty good at keeping, if we have bullet points we want to hit, getting us back to those points within a reasonable amount of time, so we don't have 2-hour episodes every time.
And angry wives.
Yes.
We know about that.
Yes, but I do remember I remember the conversation the night that Jose and Christian wanted to start the podcast. That was one of my issues, is my wife was like, you do too much as it is. There's no way you would be a part of that. So it took a while to get some things off my plate to be a part of that.
That night we had also recorded a 3-hour long episode that was still not finished at that point. So that wasn't a good day to kind of throw that out either.
And I think Ace, we get a lot of complaints from friends that are not avid podcast listeners. So like, but they want to listen to us because they're our friends, and they go, "Oh no, it's a 45-minute, hour-long podcast. It's too long."
Brian.
Yeah, it's too long.
Yeah, Brian, what's up, man?
But they go, but I'm like, that's
We love you, Brian, and you know that.
That's pretty much a standard podcast, is about 45 minutes to an hour and a half. So it's like, so for us, we're like that.
Yeah, it's nothing.
Listen to podcasts. That's standard. So
Yeah.
but like I can understand trying to get down from a 3-hour marathon to.
We typically break it up if we
Yeah.
go over an hour and a
Yeah.
half. I mean, that.
They were talking about
just
doing a 3-hour podcast, and they weren't even finished yet. So that would be like 4 episodes.
Well, that's the music episode that then turned into 4
was
episodes.
4 episodes.
Yeah.
We had to break it down because
Yeah.
it was like nobody's going to. I mean, I don't know if anybody made it through the whole series because that's what it turned into.
Yeah.
Like it's just a lot. Like it's a lot of information and just conversation to like listen to. Me and Christian were actually talking about this earlier. It's like, yo, like I want to listen to people like Joe Rogan and like people that have podcasts like that, but they have
3-hour episodes.
4 hour.
episodes that I'm just like, oh my God. Like, and I listen to about 9 hours worth of podcast a day.
Yeah.
So it's like
Are you listening on 2x, or are you actually listening to it like
1.5
speed? 1.5. Okay.
1.5.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like I listen to a lot of podcasts, but it's like I don't want to. Out of my 9 hours that I'm listening to, half of that would be one episode, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, like what?
Yeah.
Like that's not cool. Like I rather listen to about 10 episodes,
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to consume that long of a episode / series of anything, especially if you're like I do a lot of like listening to them like fully through.
Mm-hmm.
So like your guys' podcast, when Christian told me about you guys, I just listened to everything that you guys had released.
Which I'm impressed with, by the way. Thank you for that.
Oh yeah,
If I would have thought about it, and before we had these guys on, if I actually did some research,
You should have.
but I didn't because I was unprepared because it's my birthday weekend. so-
Birthday weekend.
Yeah.
We'll blame it.
Forgiven.
Yeah, but we should have played the game, the famous game, indie band or craft beer name,
Oh, man.
craft beer brewery. So like,
Oh, that's great.
yeah, I heard on a couple podcasts, but I would give credit to the podcast.
Sure.
that I heard it on, but they name a craft brewery or an indie band, and you have to decide which one it is.
Yeah.
Dang it!
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Missed opportunity.
Missed
Yeah.
opportunity.
But so I listen to all your guys' catalog, and that's what I do a lot. So it's like if I'm listening to a back catalog and your episodes are 4 hours long, I'm only going to listen to 2 episodes a day, and then that to me isn't satisfying. So it's like I'm just not going to do it. Because if you have 100 episodes, they're all 3 hours long. Like Joe Rogan's, it's like no way in hell I'm going to do that. Like
It's like my one of my favorite TV shows is Peaky Blinders. Have you ever watched that?
Peaky Blinders on Netflix.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, so it's one of my favorite shows. But one of the greatest things about it is it's each season 6 episodes, and each episode is an hour long, and so like you could literally watch the entire series in a weekend if you wanted to.
Yeah.
And so it's something very like and consumable, and I think we did a pretty good job at that, making if you want to go back, or if you want to listen to, like if you're going to Nashville and you want to go back and listen to our Nashville thing, it's like, oh, well, we got a 2-hour road trip. You could probably get through a lot of that. So
Yeah. And then know where to go once you're there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So very cool. So you mentioned music and all that. Tell me a little bit about, I guess, your background. Like, what got you into maybe podcasting, and then where were you at before you even started podcasting? Like, what's your story?
Okay.
Jose?
So for me, actually, funny story. I had known about podcasts for years. Your old iPods had like I'm a musician since I've been a musician since I was like 10.
Cool.
So
He's like 13 now.
You play
yeah, and I'm like
guitar, what do you-
12.
Yeah,
So,
12.
you know,
Yeah.
I'm a drummer.
Okay, drummer. That's right. Yeah.
So I have been listening to music like religiously since I was like 6. Like that was my thing. Like music was my thing since I was like 6. Like that was it for me. And so I've had Walkman, CD players, everything. But once you got like your first iPod, it always had that podcast app. Like that's always been on any iPod Touch, any device like that. So I've always known about podcasts, but I thought that was like for old people. Like that was like old people's thing. Like
comparatively, we are old, so
Yeah.
not really, because that's what people around your age is what I hang out with. Like as you guys noticed.
I'm just giving you a hard time.
But it's fine.
Way behind
I'm the kid. It's fine. But so I never really listened to a podcast until I got my girlfriend at the time pregnant, who's now my wife. We have a kid. But when we went to a clinic, the lady there suggested a podcast that she knew the people that like recorded it, and they were in Oak Ridge. So people from Oak Ridge, one of the guys is from Oak Ridge, the other guys are from Chicago. It's really weird, but they record a podcast, and so she suggested it to me, and so I started listening to them.
What was the name of it?
That's a good question.
What was the theme of it?
Christianity.
Okay. Interesting.
It was a Christian podcast.
Okay.
And they do like prison
ministry.
Yeah, prison ministry and stuff. I'm gonna blank on the name. It has to do with like
Wasn't like a focus on the family thing, was it?
no. It has to do with like words or something. It's like say it or something. It has to do with like words.
Okay.
But anyways, and it's not These Are Words podcast, which is another Knoxville-based podcast, but it has something to do with that. But she turned me on that podcast, and so I listened to them for a little while, and then I started branching off into your bad Christians, your religious based podcast, anything from like the liturgist and Pastor with No Answers, things like that. And so I literally became addicted to it almost. Like I needed to listen to podcasts. So for hours and hours and hours, like while I was at work, I was working 2 jobs at the time. So I was working like 16 hours a day. So like I was listening to podcasts the whole time. And so I just consumed so much. And so I was like, you know what, this would be cool to do. And so my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, was living in Nashville. And I was living in Knoxville. And I had the idea, she's really into like YouTubing and like vlogging and stuff. And so I had the idea of maybe branding it and starting a brand where we could have like vlogs and YouTube stuff, but we could also have a podcast. And I thought about calling it We Shouldn't Be Allowed To, like the brand. Like we shouldn't be allowed to vlog. We shouldn't be allowed to podcast, and things like that. And that could turn into, X or Y, whatever. But that would be the brand name. And that went downhill very quick. It was so bad. She just wasn't into podcasting, and I would just talk about things and like want her to have an opinion, and she'd be like, yeah. And I'd be like, you don't have a thought about this? And she was like, yeah, that's fine.
So now you said she's a vlogger herself, or she was just really into like watching that?
She was really into that and wanted to get into YouTube.
Okay.
She like tried it out for like a second. She did like a beauty channel, like makeup and things like that. And
Sure.
they kind of stopped doing that. It was her and two of her friends, but
Gotcha.
they haven't been doing that recently. But she did do that. But the podcasting was my thing. YouTube was her thing. And then when she moved to Knoxville, we started. Church was her like thing. Like she grew up in the church, and I just didn't care for church, so I didn't go to church. But when we started going to church, we went on Mother's Day to the guys' church from the podcast that I had mentioned earlier that I can't remember the name of. We went to his church in Oak Ridge, and then the next week we went to Awaken, and that's where I met Thomas and Christian and everybody. And then at a guys' day, this started. So
The rest is history.
yeah, the rest is history. So
That's cool.
yeah,
That's cool. Thomas, what about you?
that was very long-winded. I'm so
outside-
sorry.
No, that was awesome. No,
The
that's
question
great.
was before all this.
Yeah, before all this, where were you and what?
Okay.
I mean, obviously you met these guys. How did all that happen?
Well,
So
I'm, as you can tell, me and Christian are a little older, have a little more seasoning on us, I guess. I actually have 3 daughters. One that's 4 months, one that turns 2 in a couple weeks, and one that's almost 4. So they are very close together. I have a full house of women. So this is a good excuse, too, for me to get out of the house. But, yeah, I actually moved back to Knoxville. I grew up in the Tri-Cities. Moved to Florida for a while. Went to college in Florida. Played baseball down there at college. Met my wife actually through Facebook. She's from upstate New York. So crazy story. I won't go all the way into it, but mutual friend on Facebook. We talked for a year before we met in person. The rest is history. 10 months later, we were engaged. Been married 8 years in October.
Whoa.
Yeah. So, but we hated Florida. She moved down there. We lived there a year after we got married. She hated it. I'd hated it the whole time I lived there. So moved back to Knoxville. A lot of our podcasts have to do with religion because a lot of us have had the same experiences with institutionalized religion, I guess you'd call it. I come from a ministry background. My dad was a worship leader and youth pastor, and I was actually on staff as a worship leader for a while. Got really burnt in the mega style, larger style of church. So actually moved back to Knoxville, did the house church thing for a while. Groups of 20 people or so. Worked really well for a while. Then I started having kids, and it's really hard to, when you're the only person there that has kids, you're chasing new kids around the house, to be able to focus and actually have community with a group of people. So we just kind of went into a different season of life. Music has always been a passion of mine, music and sports. And once you start getting older, sports kind of goes out of play. So it's really, I've began to focus on my music side of somewhat of a career, I guess, in the long run. Would love to, me and Jose right now are actually have some stuff in the works, but, found Awaken, I guess it would have been almost 2 years ago now. Was a better fit for us, smaller style church, just more community based. Didn't feel so, it felt more raw and authentic and not so overly planned. Organization is one thing, but everything being planned to the minute's another. So I actually started playing music there, hanging out. I knew the pastor. We had a history together. So I trusted him coming in. And didn't really make any friends there for a while. Was kind of nervous to get my feet wet, getting hurt again by people. I met Christian. We started hanging out a little bit on the side. We got along really well. They loved our kids. And Jose came in the picture. I guess it would have been about 1.5 years ago. This guy shows up. You can tell he's very closed off. Didn't really have a lot of expectations. And needless to say, I guess our pastor kind of introduced us, and so we went out to lunch, just kind of had a couple conversations, and he realized that I wasn't what he expected, I guess. We had a lot of similarities, even though we came from very different backgrounds. So we kind of hit it off, started hanging out. I remember soon after I took Jose out for the day with his wife, and we went out all day and drank beer. And
It was actually a year ago today.
yeah, because it was his 21st birthday. We took him out, and I took him to Calhoun's that night, and we had shots and got a bunch of beer, and
We drank literally all
day.
day. Like we started, it was Saturday last year, and we started at the farmer's market, and then we were like, oh, let's go to Soccer Taco, just for lunch, casually. So we got the 32-ounce beer there, and then we drank again, and then we said, oh well, let's just walk around. We're a little, buzzed at this point, and then it's like, oh, let's go to Calhoun's. So at Calhoun's, we end up eating more and drinking more, and
drank
then
a lot of beer.
It's fun. We bought a 6-pack at Calhoun's and then finished it and shots, and it's fun.
not a very long period of time.
Yeah, no, not at all. But
But basically, that just led to we have a very close knit group of friends. Me, Jose, and Christian are on the podcast. We have a very good friend we speak about a lot. His name's Nate. He has 3 kids also. Very, very busy guy. He does not have time for a podcast. But yeah, we all started hanging out, spending time together, and that all ended up leading to a guys' night when these two came up with the idea. And I guess the rest is history. Once my schedule cleared out and I'd been on multiple episodes, the invitation kind of came out to be a part of it full time, and I jumped on it once my schedule had cleared. And that's kind of where we are now. But yeah, it's really funny how me and Jose became friends, because we come from such extremely different backgrounds, but we've kind of met in the same place with where we've seen just life and religion and experiences. And of course, we're both married and have kids, so it's a very relatable when we get together to need a break.
Yeah, it sounds like it all started over beer.
Yep.
it did actually.
We'll reel it back into
Just bring it back in.
As I said before, it was that thing. Like we wanted, the podcasting and that, we wanted to have that moment that we have when we sat down and just hung out and had a beer.
What a perfect plan, right?
What's that?
So you listen to the Humble Beer back to back, Humble Beer and the -3 back to back. You listen to us first to figure out what beer you're going to drink, while you listen to them to sit and figure out what you're going to talk about next time you drink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Only problem is that plan. They would have not figured that out until you said it right now.
So you're like
That's a great plan. Here you are, an hour and a half in.
Well, no, going forward though.
Yeah.
Going forward, it's okay, we're listening to Humble Beer. We're going to see what beer we're going to drink on.
And then listen to the
during the week. During the week, they're like, okay, Friday we're out with friends. Let's figure out what beer we need to drink Friday night. Then what are the hot topics to talk about while we drink the beer? So let's listen to the -3 to figure out what's some cool things to talk about where I was.
Brilliant thinking.
Yeah. See,
I thought you meant in context of these 2 episodes, and I was
think that
you're a little late.
could work out though.
Yeah, that's a good
Because
idea.
it's we don't really know about beer, so we can't point them towards the beer to drink, because I would just suggest Bud Light. We
got to work on him.
Yes.
I can definitely give you a topic that'll make you talk for 3 hours. Let's just bring up guns. You'll have a conversation there for 3 hours, you know? But beer? I don't know. I'm this all tastes great. It makes me feel funky. That's cool. But it's I have no clue. I don't know.
I mean, he's just now getting into, some Sweetwater stuff. I think I finally got him to, because he's Jose's what you call a Weigel's tall boy, reach out, try something new kind of guy.
So he finds his new craft beer in the Weigel
so
section.
he's getting
there's craft beer there.
There's some
That's
decent.
why I'm saying
There's getting some new. They're getting some.
He's getting some. Right now he's kind of in that. Hey, why don't you try some? Voodoo Ranger or something like that.
Pretty good beer.
Yeah. So we're getting him into some decent beer. It's a good first stepping stone.
Yeah.
We could use him down the line for tests and stuff, like trials. What is the we have a new sour or something. Let's see what the unacclimated person to this. Is that,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, we could have him on again.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Thomas, what about you and craft beer? Where did you first find your love for craft beer? Because I know we talked, and it sounds like you've got a little more experience with
Yeah.
craft beer other than Bud Light.
Well, when I got married, I was 22, so I was still really fresh into beer. Didn't really start drinking beer much till I was 21. And so in Florida, those guys were, Yingling, Corona. You're kind of generic, not low end beer, but kind of like I don't know. I say Corona because I had a lot of Hispanic friends that's all they drank.
Yeah.
But honestly, I had Yingling first, and I realized that I wanted to move darker because I wanted to drink for flavor. So I started drinking some Guinness and just, acclimating myself, but never really strayed from 2 or 3 beers. Then I moved to Knoxville, a year later. I was almost 23 and basically had a lot more options and a lot of friends that knew a lot more about beer really quickly. And my dad comes from a pretty crazy background himself. So he didn't drink until he didn't drink. I had never seen him drink till I was probably 24 when he felt comfortable again to taste alcohol, because when he was young, he was a partier and had struggled with it until he came into Christianity. So, he also surprisingly came in and said, he couldn't even stand the taste of those party beers. So we kind of together started taste testing and go in the tap rooms and just trying stuff. And so Christian, I'd say of us 3 is the most knowledgeable. So he's usually the guy, and Nate actually is not on the podcast with us, but he's from Michigan. So they have a lot of good beer in Michigan.
They know their beer up there.
Yes. So he's always telling me all these crazy beers to taste, and he likes like nitro beers and stuff, and he just is always getting us to taste new stuff. He has friends that come visit and they'll bring him a 6-pack of something that he can't get here. And so I would say for me, I'm still definitely pretty amateur, but I think I have a pretty good taste for beer, in that I can same thing with coffee. I run a coffee business, and you have to be able to taste the difference. You have to have train your palate. And so,
what's the name of the business?
The Coffee Run. We've actually talked about it on the now -3 episodes.
Yeah.
We're an LLC. Me and my wife actually started a small coffee business it's been a year, I guess, within the next 2 weeks. And we went full time back in February. So if you ever want to check it out, we are called the Coffee Run. We actually are mobile. We go all around Knoxville. We do a lot of businesses, mostly in the medical field. And then we also do a lot of events. We're at Central Filling Station here in Knoxville. We do a lot of events in the fall because, of course, that's a great time of year for coffee.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we're business owners. It's scary, and we're broke right now, but we love what we're doing, and looking forward to growing that. We've got a couple kiosks that we've opened, and we're looking to open a few more in the next couple months. But Jose, we were just talking about. They were asking me my knowledge of like craft stuff, and I was telling them that your knowledge comes about to the point of tall boys at Weigel's right now.
Yeah. I mean, if that, most of the stuff I've learned has been from Humble Beer, and you guys, like you and Christian, just hanging out with you guys and having you guys bring a beer. And then my buddy, my old roommate, he's actually a musician around here.
Cool.
Ben Donaldson, if you guys have heard of him. I don't know. Benjamin Donaldson.
I don't think so.
But anyways, he would always have like Highland or beers like that at the house.
Yeah.
To where he would show me different things that, or like your voodoos and things like that. They're still a little bit more popular, but like not Budweiser,
Yeah.
or like, your Michelobes or anything like that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where it sparked like my interest, and then hanging out with them, and then Christian telling me about you guys, and then just it was kind of like a step stool, and then you get another step and a step and a step, and so now I'm here where I'm like, I'm kind of really interested in this. Like it's nice to have like a decent beer. Like today I had that as I mentioned before, that Kentucky Bourbon Barrel Ale.
Yes. Hey, you said
Dealing with it all day, folks.
I got it.
You struggled with that earlier if you didn't listen.
So I had 2 of those, and I was like, wow, this is so good. Like, it's weird to have a beer where you're just like, holy crap, this is good. Like, given my background of beer. Like,
Yeah.
I've been drinking since I was young.
Couple years.
What the heck did my voice do? No, since I was like young, like too young to be drinking. But in Puerto Rico, it's legal to drink at 18. So I've been drinking excessively since I was like 18. And even a couple years before that. But it was piss beer. Like literally
like less than $1 beer.
yeah, less than $1, like 87 cents. Like, medalla is what it's called in Puerto Rico, and it's super cheap. Like you can at the brewery, like if you go there, you could get it for $0.25.
Oh wow.
So you can only imagine how great it is.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
sounds amazing.
Sounds
like the best beer ever.
Yeah,
You can get us or get us your hands on some of it for us.
I definitely could. Whenever I go to Puerto Rico, I could bring some back for you
Bring
guys.
some back.
Oh, we'd love it. We'll have a bottle share episode with you.
Yeah, I promise you. So I make it sound really bad. It's not terrible. Like it's not that bad,
Or like
but it's
old
like
style or something.
yeah. But when you're drinking like I don't know, like a wiseacre, like gotta get up to get down or something like that, and then you go to get like that, and you're like, oh, like this is weird, But I grew up on that, so when I came here to Knoxville, I was like, holy crap, beer can actually be good. Like that's weird. So that's basically my limit of knowledge right there. But yeah.
That's cool. That's fun. Well, Thomas, going back to you for a second, talking about coffee. Coffee was one of the big things for me that got, I think is one of the reasons I have an appreciation for craft beer because, it was legal to drink coffee at almost any age, although I wouldn't give it to a child. Mostly for your own sanity, if anything. But when it comes to learning about taste and flavor, I went to UT Chattanooga. Chattanooga had a lot of roasters before Knoxville had any roasters. And so I got to taste, local roasters before that was even a big thing here. Mm-hmm. And learning about that flavor and stuff has really helped me develop a palate and realize that coffee or a beverage in general could be more than just mass-produced flavor. And and I don't know, I found a lot of interest in that. So you doing coffee, I'm sure, helps influence even your beer drinking to a degree.
yeah.
What kind of coffee do you all like? What do you actually like when it comes to coffee?
Well,
We're the humble coffee
I'm a little
podcast.
I'm a little bland, I would say. Because I do like if I show up at some local cafe and I want to try their coffee, I'm probably gonna get just like cold brew.
Okay. Why is that?
I want to taste your beans. I want to taste. That sounds really weird. I want to taste.
Okay.
I want to taste what kind of beans they're using, and that's usually one of the easiest ways for me to do it. And so I'm pretty bland. I like my coffee to be strong, so let's do like I'm an oddball. I actually like to drink. I prefer iced coffee.
Interesting.
My espresso iced also. I don't know why, but the way my palate works, I feel like I can taste it better.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I won't do it over ice. I'll just put it in the fridge, let it get cold, and over stuff we make, and that's how I feel like I can taste it best. So I double shots, stuff like that. But my wife is she's actually I'm the coffee connoisseur when it comes to the roasting side, where she's more of the knowledge of how to make drinks because she was a barista for like 8 years.
Oh, okay.
So we kind of had a mutual passion for coffee when we got married. And so that kind of led to the idea of just trying it out and seeing what happened. I mean, it was a long process. Like you said, with beer, we had a lot of trial and error with roasters. We
Yeah.
probably went through 11 or 12 roasters before we decided who we wanted to use to make our drinks. I guess it's also with coffee, I've gained more of a respect for the brewing side, realizing just how in depth and how much art there is in the process of roasting beans. There's a lot of chemistry involved there. It's really an art. I mean, I've now that I've seen it done firsthand and been part of the process, and then having friends now that do homebrew type stuff, it's a really similar concept of how you can make anything out basically however you want it to be. Just depends on what kind of time you're wanting to put in and knowledge you have of the subject at hand. But yeah, I mean, I think coffee, now that you speak about it though, has really helped me gain a perspective on beer.
Yeah.
So we're probably seeing it from the same aspect. You just have a lot more knowledge of the brewing side than I do at this point. I'm a little more amateur still.
Sure. That's cool. Yeah, but that was always an interesting tie-in for me. It was kind of like, knowing that coffee could be something more than just, Folgers or something more than Starbucks, which I don't hate Starbucks, but I do not love like their standard. If you just say coffee, not a fan. I do like their espresso. I'm a big fan of that, but that's its own rant in and of itself that I won't get into. But yeah, I mean, coffee I think is a good. If you're wanting to learn about craft beer, it's as good to learn to train your palate to taste good coffee as it is to learn beer, and it's kind of a similar process. And that's what I found when I started transferring it over to my knowledge and experience in beer. So
I think
found that interesting.
It's definitely made it easier, I feel like.
Yeah.
Now when I look for different things tasting beer now that I've trained my palate in coffee, because I never before would think to like, how's it taste on the front? How's it taste on the back?
Yeah.
Kind of thing, So yeah, it's kind of a cool concept. But yeah, I don't want to talk about Starbucks because we could go for another 2 hours on how I feel about that place. But
Let's just say it's the Budweiser of coffee. Like, is that fair?
I wouldn't quite
their
say
product's not
Budweiser.
terrible. I would say
Yeah.
they've got some options. I would say that they've outgrown themselves.
So the Sam Adams.
Yeah,
More
maybe.
comparable. I would
Because
say
Sam
more
Adams has a
comparable.
couple good beers. Like,
Yeah.
I'm
yeah.
a fan of Sam Adams.
No, Sam Adams is good. I'm just saying it in regards to Starbucks being. Yeah, I guess Sam Adams. There's still
Probably comparable.
Yeah, because there's still some craft involved in what's done to make the coffee there. If you're talking the Budweiser of coffee, you're talking like Dunkin' Donuts
Yes,
or
yes.
McDonald's or something
Okay.
like that. They actually do really good roasts if you put some cream in them, in my opinion. But beyond that, it's that's kind of where that's my baseline.
Now, I have a question for you guys on the beer side.
Yeah.
A lot of times for me, and maybe it's a mental thing, but sometimes I want to know behind coffee. I want to know how it's their process. And that I feel like sometimes that'll affect my expectations. And sometimes, maybe I don't give them the right amount of, just an even, in, I guess, like with like McDonald's, I know their process, I know what they use. And so I go in just thinking this is going to probably taste very mediocre. And when it might not taste terrible, but my mentality is it's going to taste like crap coming in. So do you guys ever find yourselves being more of the brewery connoisseurs, knowing how something's done or seeking out their process? Because DJ, I know that you said you nerd out to that kind of stuff. Yeah. So in our earlier episode. And so, or was that at this episode? Was that this episode? I can't remember, but
Somewhere.
Somewhere.
Go back and
It was
listen to both.
it was in our conversation.
Yes.
Let's just say it that way.
Yeah. So you need to listen to both to make
Yes,
sure you
basically.
track with us. Yeah.
But do you find yourselves ever, do you have a prerequisite in your mind if you know the process of how a brew is done sometimes? Do you ever find that affecting?
That's a great question. I think for me, my perspective is like, how the beer is done based on the style of beer that it's described as in its description or the style that the brewer tells you it is. So if it doesn't fit that, then there's obviously some question as to did they do it right to begin with, or did they just go out and do something that's just different and unique. And for me, yeah, I mean, knowing how it's done and the appreciation for it definitely matters. Something that's barrel aged, it's harder to make. But one thing that's really underappreciated in the brewing community are lagers, because that's more like your. I don't think Bud Heavy is Bud Heavy a lager. I can't remember.
I believe so.
I think it is. I think it's a lager, but the lager style it's kind of similar to a pilsner, but the lager style takes a longer time to brew. So a lot of craft brewers don't brew it because it takes longer. It takes up more time in the tank. It takes more weeks to actually brew properly, and so it's a technically good beer to brew, but it's technically good. It doesn't mean the flavor is what is popular. That's why part of why IPAs are so popular is they're faster to brew. They've got a lot more flavor to them. You can do a lot more. Honestly, you can mess up more with them. It's kind of like punk rock. You can make a lot of noise, and it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to always be on key when you're jamming an IPA as when you do something technical like a lager or a pilsner or something like that. And so for me, there's an appreciation for those technical beers, but it's maybe not quite the same as what you're asking. But right. It is that respect for, oh wow, they did that. That takes a long time and costs a lot to do.
And for me, it's about how they achieve flavors too. And when you when you kind of see behind the curtain, it's like there's a beer called, I think, Catawba Brewing Company, Peanut Butter Jelly Time. And basically, it's a peanut butter jelly beer. And so I think I read an article or listened to a podcast on how they come up with it. And basically, the beer is supposed to taste like a peanut butter jelly sandwich. And peanut butter jelly sandwich. And so I heard basically the whole concept behind the beer was they were trying to get like peanut nutty on the front end, then it finished with a sweet flavor. So, I mean, they never really tried to put jelly in there. They never really tried to put peanuts in there. They were just trying to get a roasted nut flavor on the front end, then a sweet flavor on the back end. And calling it peanut butter and jelly time just tricks your mind into thinking, that's nutty and sweet, right. So that's peanut butter jelly. So now when I drink that beer now, just since I heard about the process, I don't think peanut butter and jelly anymore. I think of nut and sweet.
Right.
I almost think more of a trail mix flavor than I do. But the thing is the marketing on it, and when you drink it for the first time and you're thinking, oh, that really tastes like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And then if you hear about how it's done and you're like, then you have a couple times, you're like, oh, no, actually, they're using the marketing to help you dictate the flavor.
Yeah, well, and another good one is the Peachy King.
Yeah.
Why am I drawing a blank on the brewery's name? You know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You think about it, and I'll keep talking. But Peachy
You've only
King
had him on the podcast.
Yeah, we've only R.J. Rocker.
R.J. Rocker.
Sorry, R.J. Rocker. We had the CEO on the podcast, and we totally drew a blank. But R.J. Rocker, great brewery, and they actually do peach beer with South Carolina peaches, like actual peaches that they blend up and pull by the bushelful and brew for that beer. So you're getting organic peach with the beer. And to me, like, when it comes to fruity flavors in beer, I hate it when I find out. I mean, I give grace to the local guys, but like if it's a bigger brewery, I want to know that it's more organic. I mentioned them before, but Samuel Smith, they're one of my favorite like all-time breweries, and they do a lot of historically good beers, but they also do really good fruit beers. In fact, if you've ever had a lambic, it's been brewed by the same people who own Sam Smith. And those are organic fruits that they use, and real fruit. It's not artificial flavoring, and to me that makes a big difference. Mm-hmm. So I respect that, and like DJ was saying, when you get the flavor you want in a beer and the way, when it comes across a certain way, like the pickle beer, there's a few breweries that do them, but I've had one or two that taste just like a pickle. It's delicious.
I just had the pickle slushy at Sonic recently.
How was that?
It was so weird, man, because they almost tried to make it too sweet because it's a slushy.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, like if I'm drinking something pickle, like I almost want that like sour, like pickle juice taste.
Yeah.
And so it was like a little weird, but pickle beer?
Yeah.
Like,
okay, so I want an opinion then, because I'm a huge grapefruit fan, like in beer.
Okay.
I like it. So, do you guys have one you'd suggest me trying? Because that's a beer that I don't know why, but it's a beer that I like to go to like on watching a UT game.
Like what? So you're like talking like a Radler?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like Stiegel Radler is a grapefruit Radler. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, no. The first one I ever had was, and I'm gonna brain fart. What's that German company? Starts with an L.
Leinenkugel.
Leinenkugel.
Yeah.
That was the first one, and it's actually pretty good. It's a pretty good grapefruit.
They're owned by I think Miller Coors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not actually a German company.
Yeah.
Is it not?
No.
I just
That was-
assumed by
okay.
I assume by their name. I honestly
False
didn't do any
marketing.
research.
But-
Yeah, but
We have a whole podcast.
I know there's a lot of like grapefruit is in a lot of the hops and that citrus grapefruit. That's a lot. That's a common kind of way to the flavor of different hops. I would have to kind of really Google like
Which one?
I do like
which
citrusy,
which one. Like, and I would. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say if you like citrusy beers, I mean, if you really, really like that flavor specifically, definitely try Stiegel Radler.
Okay.
Radler's the style, Stiegel's the name of the brewery, German brewery, and Radlers are fruit beers. They actually go really, really well with, like, if you ever do like a brunch, they're a great brunch alternative to, say, a mimosa or something like that. Very fruity, very light, low in alcohol, so you're not going to get too drunk in the middle of the day drinking it. But that's legit grapefruit and beer, and that's the one I would recommend you definitely try. It's not an IPA. If you just like the fruity flavors, go for a double IPA or even a triple IPA. Not Imperial. Imperial's more the richer IPAs, but the doubles and triples a lot of times bring out fruity flavors and even candy flavor, like candy fruit flavors.
Hot candy.
Oh my gosh!
No,
Yes.
no, but I was like, gonna say like, I would have to research. I would have to do the Humble Beer podcast, but I would just there are the different strains of hop give off different flavors. So like some hops are going to be more citrusy, some more bitter, and so like there are some certain hops that give that grapefruit fruit flavor. So I would just go like Google grapefruit hops and be like, okay, what hops? So I'm gonna find these beers that have this hop that tastes more like a grapefruit. If you want to get a more traditional straight beer, like if you just want to drink, not like a Radler or anything, if you want to do traditional beer, just find like the more citrusy, grapefruity hops.
And I don't know why. Just in the last year, I've gotten more into the citrusy type of.
Yeah.
It's probably just a phase.
New England IPAs are a good one if you like citrusy on the nose, especially. There's still hoppy IPAs.
Like a Citra hop. A Citra is a name of a hop, and it's a very Citra. It's a very
citrusy.
Yeah, so it's very tasty. So you're going to get that grapefruit flavor, that orange flavor from that hop.
Yeah.
So how do
We're
you
boring
get,
him to death talking about hops over here.
No, I'm just like, if I like close my eyes or anything, I'm like trying to like imagine. Like,
We're not putting you to sleep.
No, I sometimes I'll like close my eyes and I have to like imagine things like in my head. So like you have a like a little drawing of a hop right there, and so like in my head I'm like imagining like an orangey or like a grapefruit looking like hop like in my head. But then I'm also trying to like stay active with you guys, so I'm like trying to like close one eye and like imagine it, and then like keep one open and like stay focused on you guys, and so it just looks like I'm like nodding off like over here. But it's just like me trying to like mentally imagine like, because it's just like for me who doesn't really know anything about like hops or anything like that, I'm just like, whoa, like there's citrus hops, like what? Mm-hmm. Like there's grapefruit hops, like that's insane to me. Like I've never heard of anything like that. So to me, I'm just like trying to like imagine it.
It's not so much that there are citrus hops, but the hop, the way it's grown and the way it's made, or the way it's been developed over time, has that flavor to it. That strain of hop has that flavor to it.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Jose's sitting here with his eyes closed, and I just see Chris look over with this look of disappointment. It's like, dang, this guy's
Like,
this
dang
guy's
it.
gone.
He doesn't care.
Wow.
See how it is.
No, so I actually
Get out of here again. No, I'm joking.
I had a question about that, even like along this topic of like citrusy things. How do you guys feel about like sours? Like,
Oh man,
those have recently become like kind of popular at my house. I used to be against sours, and then recently I'm like, I could do a couple sours. So
When I first heard the term sour, I thought atomic warhead. I thought like it was going to be nasty and gross and just make me pucker, and I just didn't want that. When I actually took the dive, I really think the first time I had tried a sour or two, I think DJ offered them to me, and I was like, oh, this isn't too bad. And then we went to Asheville and got to go to Wicked Weed's Funkatorium. Opinions of where Wicked Weed is at now aside, like it was incredible. You asked about the brewing process. Sours done right and done well are really technical. They're really hard to do. You're literally souring the beer, but in a sense, you're actually spoiling the beer. You have to actually make a mistake in a technical sense, make a mistake to actually get the beer to do that souring process. And then once you do that, you've got to put it into, you've got to get it to the point where, you're aging it or you're flavoring it in a different way. And it's a very technical, very crazy process to be able to do it that way. So, in that respect, yeah, I love sours. I think they're great. I typically like fruitier sours. I've found the cool thing about going to the Funkatorium, which I highly recommend a trip to Asheville if y'all haven't been and want to learn more about craft beer. You can learn a ton in an afternoon just by dropping into the Funkatorium, hitting up a few breweries in Asheville, and going and taking the Sierra Nevada tour. Mind will be blown. Or I guess technically
what we should do?
Belgium too.
We should meet up with the guys and let them go through like every time Tony does a talk, and they can listen. And we could like test bring them back on and test their knowledge every time.
Yeah.
Our friend Tony does beer education.
Oh, okay.
In town, and he'll go to breweries and you donate for like $5.
Yeah.
And they basically they're gonna have a seminar, basically a 35-45 minute talk about hops. Yeah. So
he's a certified Cicerone.
Yeah. So you guys and the youngin and you guys, we should get him to. We should all plan it up, and when he does them, then
Just all go.
we all go. And we go to a couple of them, then have them on again and see how much how much they learn.
I'd be down.
That'd be cool. But yeah, I mean, you can learn a lot about beer just from something like that, or even just taking a beer tour, like even Knox Brew tours. Just jumping on with Zach and taking a trip with him. I mean, it can be a very enlightening experience learning about the brewing process. Just taking one of those tours.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I think there's a different perspective growing up the way it's because it sounds like we grew up in similar households, and so when I came into beer, I wasn't coming into it to drink it. I came into it with a different purpose. Like I wanted to. The first time I tried beer, it was like, what's the big kick on this? Why are people drinking it so often? I wasn't looking to drink it like, hey, I want to get blazed like these guys do every weekend.
Yeah.
And so I think it kind of benefited me to come into it like that because I was like, I only want to drink it if it tastes good.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was definitely part of my mentality. It was also if I knew I could prevent myself from drinking too much by buying expensive beer, because then I would think, you know what, I'm going home with a $30, $40 bar tab. I'd rather save some money.
Yeah. Yeah, I see you guys have, speaking of, I myself am a bit of a, I would say, cigar connoisseur. I see a cigar cutter over there.
Yeah.
So, are we going to have a cigar night here?
Oh,
come on.
Yeah, we can totally make that happen.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. We do enjoy a good cigar too. In fact, we interviewed John, the owner of the Park City Cigars. He's tied in with Merchants of Beer.
Yep.
Down in the old city. Which
I think
if
I've
you
met
haven't
John.
been there. Oh yeah.
You haven't been to Merchants of Beer?
No, I was going to say if you haven't,
I have.
Any listener who hasn't, definitely needs to go check it out.
Oh yes, yes.
Yeah,
Had a couple.
You
They,
as
have,
well.
they actually have a really good for how small the selection is. Their cigar selection is pretty solid there.
Yeah. John's
does
done
a
a
real
good
good
job.
job. Yeah.
I was telling a friend the other day about it, and I was like, there is nothing more masculine than ordering their what is it? Their beef jerky charcuterie platter.
I haven't had it.
Yeah, it's like instead of charcuterie, you know, all those meat selections and cheese, it's just different variations on beef jerky.
Oh wow!
You can have that, smoke a cigar, and drink a beer at the same time. Like nothing says I'm a man like that. It's
we
awesome.
actually, it's hilarious you say that because we actually 2 weekends ago, because see, church doesn't start for us till 11:15, so we don't even have rehearsal till like 9:30, 9:40.
Yeah.
For band. So we actually went out and had a guys' night 2 Saturday nights ago. Didn't know where we wanted to go, so we hadn't been there. Went to Merchants of Beer. So Nate and our friend Nate and Christian are sitting inside drinking. You know, they're more intellectuals. They just want to sit and talk.
Yeah.
Where we want to, like, we're always like meeting people, like we're going around. So we actually went out and got
I don't know about we on that one.
Well, me and you. Well, what I'm saying is, me and Jose go out to the humidor, grab stogies, and we end up sitting there with a couple other people talking MLB for
We
MLB and music for about 2 hours while we're
awesome.
having our beer. And
That's so cool.
but it was it's a very manly place to be.
Yeah, that was a good little place right there. I hadn't been there. I had always seen it, and I was like, God, that looks so cool.
I'm there. I'm there too much. So
Yeah. Well,
Manchester United, Knoxville meets there. So we watch all the Man United games there. So that's our home pub. So
okay.
So I'm there pretty much about once or twice a week.
So if you meander in there on a Saturday morning and you see DJ, he's
I'm yelling at the.
it's an adventure. I've been to one Man U meeting, and I was like, I made the mistake of saying, you know, I'm still figuring this thing out. I don't know if I'm really a fan of Man U. I don't really care. And they were like taking food out of my hand, and they were like, no, we brought this for the fans. We didn't bring this for you. And
No,
I was like,
we have fun.
Well, see,
they're good people though. I really
can talk
enjoyed it.
soccer, but I'm just, I don't know. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but Man, you
Golf's favorite football team.
you kind of like beat yourself in the like you kind of screwed yourself out of that one. Like they're not the greatest team.
God's favorite football team, best team in the world.
Dude,
Number one team in the world.
We're Vols fans too. Bear that in mind.
I guess you guys are a bit of a
We like pain.
masochist, yeah, in itself. But it's like you could have picked like a team like Arsenal or a better history team.
History.
But Man U.
There's a big contingent of Man U fans here in town.
Yeah. Oh, the fact that you said Arsenal, it means you probably don't watch soccer that much. So.
I mean,
So wait, do you know? You might know one of the old pastor friends of mine. He's a mega Man U fan. His name is Mark Medley.
That sounds familiar.
He's a pastor now at Trinity, one of the pastors on staff there. But he's like jerseys all the time.
Yeah,
like
we
mega.
get him
So I'm
out
sure-
and chant and
so I'm
cheer.
sure he has to have came to some sort of event.
I'll look him up and see if I recognize him.
well, see, you didn't pick the worst team, so Man U's a good team to watch. I'm just like, to be a fan like that. Well, I mean, I guess you got like the Miami Dolphins on
I'm
your
a Fins
wall.
fan.
Again,
But it's
Vols, Miami Dolphins, Man U. Dean, we say more.
Atlanta Brave.
Yeah, but the Atlanta Braves this year are
I have my Atlanta Braves
Doing great.
/ Tennessee hat. So
yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
yeah, there you go.
Like, the Braves are doing great this year.
We beat the Brewers today.
We could talk baseball for a long time. We're baseball fans.
There you go.
But
Pretty
the
good.
Braves are definitely a team that I'm like, holy crap, like,
Yeah.
y'all are killing it this year. And actually, the drummer for Acidy's Burn, to bring it back to music for a second, he's a big Braves fan. So on Twitter, I'll get all the Braves knowledge I need for a while. So I've been watching them closely just because he posts about it so much.
That's awesome.
But yeah, it's once I heard you guys talk about him being a Man U fan and being part of the club, I was like, wow, like that. Like there's so many other teams out there.
I didn't choose
Man U.
them; they choose me. That's all my sports fans. You don't choose if you say I chose a team, that means you're not really a fan of them.
Yeah.
That's
true. Yeah, I was born into Vol Nation.
Yeah.
And what you guys got to think about is from 2004 to about 2011 or so is when I lived in Florida.
Oh, that's
So
bless your
if you
heart.
can think of those years
Yeah.
in Tennessee football and where
about
Florida and where
2004.
the Gators were at that time.
Oh,
At least
man.
you got 2004 in.
I had 3 to 4. My dad had 3 to 4 power T flags yanked out of our front yard by someone at some
Oh,
point.
man.
And not to blame them because I mean they were dominating at the time.
Yeah.
The Gators killed us. So in every sport they were dominating. So it was
Yeah.
miserable.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you so much for being on the podcast. We've
Yeah.
really enjoyed this. Where can people find out more about the Negative 3? I know we mentioned some stuff at the beginning, but I'd love to hear anything else you'd like to add, promote, anything coming up.
Yeah, so they can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Those are all, I don't know yet. I'd say just search for the Negative 3. We'll pop up somehow. We haven't actually made the name switch as of right now when recording.
Yeah.
But in the next week we will. And then iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, anywhere you find your podcast, you could find us. The Negative 3 Podcast, formerly known as Two Losers in Knoxville. And yeah, it's been a pleasure, man. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Dude, this has been a blast.
Thank you so much for teaching us about beer and everybody else who listens to you guys. Like it's such a like interesting thing that you can't really find that anywhere else, and it's so weird to be like at a bar and like ask somebody like, hey, do you know about this beer? So like thank you guys for actually making something that I can know nothing about beer but listen to it and be like, oh well, at least I know that.
yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers.
And again, we'll get you guys back on maybe like in a little bit of time and see how document their knowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Have him back on.
Do a little like trivia show.
Exactly.
Beer trivia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. All righty. Well, thank you guys. Well, I guess with that said, this has been Chris Hill.
This is DJ Luke,
Remember to stay humble.
and try new beer, especially this guy.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you all.
'Cause I'm